On today's episode of the St. Louis Pain Expert Podcast, I'm talking with Melanie McCool, a clinical hypnotherapist who's going to tell us how limiting beliefs can cause all kinds of problems in your life, whether it comes from health or finances or money or job satisfaction or relationships or roles in society. And more importantly, she's going to teach us how it's possible to tap into the subconscious to overcome those problems. So stay tuned for today's episode. I think you're going to really enjoy this one. And if you do enjoy the episode, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you get notified of future episodes. And without further ado, on to today's show.
You're listening to the St. Louis Pain Expert Podcast with Dr. Dave Candy, St. Louis's leading expert in chronic pain relief. Dr. Candy specializes in helping women age 40 and above to overcome chronic, nagging aches and pains without medication, injections, or surgery, so they can stay active, mobile, healthy, and independent. Whether you're suffering from pain yourself or know someone who is, pain's a universal experience that affects us all, but that doesn't mean you have to suffer. Knowledge is power, and having the right information can help you or someone you love get on the road to recovery. On the St. Louis Pain Expert Podcast, Dr. Candy talks with other pain experts from around the world to give you the information you need to recover, the peace of mind of knowing that you're not alone, and the hope that lasting relief from chronic pain is possible, and it doesn't require relying on pills, injections, or surgery in order to do so. So sit back, relax, and open your ears, mind, and heart, and let the healing begin.
Welcome to the St. Louis Pain Expert Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dave Candy. I have with me here today Melanie McCool, a clinical hypnotherapist from just outside of Tampa, Florida. And she's going to share with us how mindset blocks can stop you from living the happy, healthy life you want and achieving all the things that you want to achieve in life. So, Melanie, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today.
And thank you for having me, Dr. Dave.
Fantastic. I appreciate it. So, can you tell me, hypnotherapy is not a field that a whole lot of people go into. How did you get into this initially?
Well, the truth is I used hypnotherapy to help myself to come out of a debilitating health issue that I had. So I had adrenal fatigue and essentially burnt out half my thyroid. And I used hypnosis, medical hypnosis, to help me to come through that and to bring myself back to a place where my body could heal past it. And I thought, well, this is the most powerful experience I've ever had in healing. And I think I knew that it was what I had to do, because if there's anything that I ever wanted to do, it is to help people to, be the best versions of themselves. And that includes being free of not only the limiting mindset, but whatever may be pulling us back from moving forward powerfully in our lives.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm sure a lot of my audience can relate to that because, the adrenal fatigue is something that people with chronic pain have a lot, especially people who are always on the go, entrepreneurs, busy moms. So you're going to be right on point for this discussion here. What are some of the common mindset blocks that you see in your clients?
Well, to say common is really because it's quite individualistic. Okay, but what I can say is that the way that you know if it's a mindset block is if some areas of your life are going really well, or most areas of your life are going really well, and you can think of that as your career, your relationships, your social life, perhaps your spirituality, your involvement in the community. If lots of things are going well, and then an area or two, say it is your health or your money situation, or maybe one of those is fine, but your relationships I think of these as kind of flat tires. And so this to me is a direct indication that it is a mindset block, or it is a subconscious limiting belief that we can adjust to change the trajectory. Because if you look around your life is a direct reflection of the types of thoughts that you've had for the last 10, 20, or 30 years or more. Because the way that you think influences the way that you feel. The way you feel determines how you act or don't act in the world and move forward. So you could say that the mindset blocks are really the only thing that keeps you from moving forward and to living your dream, your best life. It is literally just a thought that was probably been around for a whole lot longer than you've even realized.
So for someone who's not, living in all areas the way that they'd like to, a lot of times people just find that as stress and may not even be aware of what those areas are. How do they come to discover that? And then how can hypnotherapy kind of help them overcome that?
Well, this is why I bring those areas up. So if you think about the areas of your life, and that would be health, health, relationships, your career, money, your social life, perhaps your community involvement or service, and your spirituality. If any of those things, if you go, ooh, those good, and then you go, ooh, that one sounds bad. There you go. I just pointed it out for you. That's how you know. And you can know that that you have no idea, honestly, how that impacts other areas of your life. But I promise you that as you fix that too, your life can change in what may seem to be miraculous ways, because you really don't know the ripple effects of getting that type of change in your life, what it can do for you. And because you've been living with it for so long, you don't even recognize it as a flat tire, probably. Right? It just is. It's just the way you are. Or you might even think it's your personality. No, personality is malleable. It's just simply a thought, a limiting belief about yourself, your place in the world. Get that sorted, watch that soar, and who knows what else is going to go on in your relationships, your health, your finances, your community involvement, your spirituality. When you get one thing dialed in.
It's amazing how awareness of the problem just makes it that much more evident and makes the solution that much more clear. You mentioned the flat tire analogy, and I see people from the physical sense that may have been walking as if they have a flat tire or walking strangely for years and years and years and just aren't aware of it because that's just how they've been. Right. So now once you identify that flat tire in one or a few areas of your life, what would be the next steps as to overcoming that and changing some of those self-limiting beliefs?
Well, the easiest way is through a subconscious modality like hypnosis, or I use NLP as well. NLP is essentially hypnosis with your eyes open. But using a subconscious modality that kind of gets into that limiting belief and makes it relevant for you today. So it's easy. It would be easier if I give an example of, a limiting belief that somebody might have around themselves and around their health, something like, and they may not even know where it comes from, but they may have this limiting belief that if they pursue their career, then their health must suffer. Okay. So this is something, and it's literally just a belief because they may have seen that and they're in somebody in their family. They don't even realize it. Once they start looking, they go, oh yeah, actually that would have explained my uncle who was really, really successful, but he, whatever that is. Okay. So the first step is to look at it and go, oh, but just consciously knowing it, unfortunately, is not enough. I wish it was, because so many people do know, well, yes, I suffer from perhaps low self-esteem because this trauma happened to me when I was, you know what I mean? Does that change the outcome? No, unfortunately it doesn't. Just knowing consciously isn't enough. But there is the subconscious work that you do to tweak that limiting belief and let your mind know that it's not relevant for you to have bad health or poor health because you're successful. What will you do differently than your uncle did to have fantastic health and continue to be successful in your career? For example, that's one that is a very clear shift that you can make. And once you do that, you might be really surprised at how quickly you're able to walk in better health and be more satisfied in your career at the same time, feeling more free to be more successful because you didn't even realize at the back of your mind you're afraid that success will kill you. Imagine that. This is the kind of stuff I see. all the time. Or people who are carrying pain because somebody that they loved carried pain, right? And they think, and then
Sure.
they're identifying with that. And then we do some things in the work that let them know that that person that they love that carried pain doesn't want them to carry pain. And then you'd be surprised at how quickly chronic pain will lift off. And of course, there's choice, as you know, there's new choices to be made in how you move and you breathe and you eat and all the other good things that go along with that health journey, right? But you'd be surprised at how quickly chronic pain can literally just seem to drift away like a dark cloud.
Yeah. What you mentioned was dead on. That I hear people all the time say, well, my mom had, a bad back, or my mom had lots of back surgeries, or, arthritis runs in my family, which if you live long enough, you're going to get it. But, those beliefs just that, hey, I'm just going to have to deal with this. I'm going to have to live with it because this is just what getting older is like, or this is what the genes that I've been dealt
this is
like.
I have to insert this, okay? Because what they found was that people who grew up with grandparents who were young, vibrant, and healthy, okay, they tend to live longer and have a more vitally healthy into old age versus young children who have grandparents who are older and frail. So they have a belief that's the way they see getting older, and they will typically have a shorter lifespan and die earlier, and have a less than vitally healthy existence.
That's really interesting.
But the fact is, so we know that, we can see it. This is in the studies. I point this study out to you. But what's fascinating is to go, well, what was different about my grandparents? So you can then go, well, what can I do differently? In the inflammation piece, how might your family have eaten or acted or thought about life that might have increased that inflammation in their body? And how might you, in contrast, reduce inflammation in your own body so that this arthritis thing doesn't even register for you? How might that be?
Now, how do you tap into those subconscious beliefs when you're not aware of them? How do you get down to that subconscious level?
Well, you don't necessarily have to get to the core root reason. Okay. I want to be really clear, because people do spend a whole lot of time thinking that they have to uncover all of these kind of things. If you can simply allow the mind to trust and know and believe that there's a different outcome for you, that you can indeed be free of chronic pain, for example, regardless of, whatever those old beliefs were, right? And you can give the mind the tools to do that, or work with the mind to do that, then the how is not so easily explained right here. But I can tell you that there are wonderful methods, and to have, to know that chronic pain, even if you just Google it, chronic pain and hypnosis is one of the most effective ways to help it. I have to watch my language. One of the best ways to help chronic pain is with hypnosis. In fact, you can Google anesthesia and hypnosis and find that not only chronic pain, but there are surgeries going on all over US, Canada, and the world right now without any chemical anesthesia. It's only hypnotic anesthesia. So if somebody can get their head cut open and have brain surgery while they're talking to the surgeon, you might be able to be relieved of some of the pain that you've been carrying around in your mind and your body for ages. It just might be helpful too.
Wow. The power of the mind amazes me more and more every single day.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
And, that's good that you mentioned that there is a lot of medically documented therapies or studies about hypnosis, because I know there is a belief out there that hypnosis is kind of like almost voodoo-ish or head shrinking, and that's just not true.
Simply not. In fact, some of the people, the most common uses for hypnosis are either getting rid of a habit, installing one. So people think of it for weight loss, for smoking, or installing good habits is another, like getting exercise off the ground, for example. Getting rid of phobias and fears, very common. Things like biting nails, all that kind of stuff. And it's been, as a medical hypnotherapist, I have referrals from doctors to help with the symptoms of whatever a patient may be working with, so that they can be relieve some of the symptoms and their body can have a chance to heal faster.
Well, let's touch on a couple of those points that you mentioned, because those are common problems. Smoking is probably where I've heard of the most use of hypnotherapy. How can hypnotherapy help someone who wants to stop smoking?
Understanding that all habits reside in what we call the subconscious mind. Okay, so your mind is incredibly efficient. If you had to think about driving every time you got in the car, it would be really energy inefficient, right? So the habit of driving a car is literally stored in the subconscious. So I want you to think of it that way. Okay. And so something like smoking is something that a smoker does hundreds of thousands or times, and not only throughout the day, but for years. And so their mind has simply stored this crap habit as in the back of this mind, the same way that a talented musician can play a piano and sing to you at the same time. That's all subconscious work going on in the background, right? So smoking has just been kind of efficiently put back there. And just like if you forgot to brush your teeth, how uncomfortable would that be? You'd be like, whoa, okay, I've got to figure out, I got to stop at a drugstore, got to get a toothbrush. I can't go through the day like this. Most people anyway, make an assumption. So smoking's like that. So if you didn't do it, your brain's like, wait, you're supposed to do that thing that you always do at this time in this place. It's not actually an addiction. It is a habit. Okay. So, and without getting into that too deeply, just understanding it's habit. And so how do you break a habit? The most efficient way is to use that brilliant subconscious mind, because you just get in there, do a couple of tweaks in that system, turn off and have them forget all about smoking. And guess what? They come out and they're like, oh, I'm happier. I forgot all about that old thing. Wow. Just like that. And habits of eating, poor eating and all that stuff too. It's actually the same, because if you think about it, you are not, if you did in the past find yourself wandering to the refrigerator and pulling out the thing that you did, and then eating too much of it. None of that was conscious. You weren't sitting there going, I'm going to eat too much of this plate until I feel so, full that I don't feel well. You didn't think that. It was literally just, this is what I've been doing probably since I was 7 or 3. Do you see? Habit. So habits are broken with subconscious work. The easiest way to do it. In fact, having worked with people as a health coach for more than 17 years before I became a hypnotherapist, oh man, I could have used this hypnosis thing for people with food all along the way. I had a whole lot more happy, healthy clients. Yeah. So.
Well, eating is a little bit, it seems to me like almost a tougher habit to replace than smoking, because no amount of smoking is good for you, but you can't stop eating. Like you have to eat to live, but there's got to be like a boundary level.
Yes,
you can't just cut it out completely.
No, definitely not. Yeah, no. And that's why typically, just so people know, smoking is typically, 1 or 2 sessions most, but weight will typically take more, because there are more layers. There's whether there's overeating or the types of food that people are eating. If it's got emotional triggers, there's different pieces there, but it is I will tell you, incredibly effective. I have very happy clients. and it empowers them, right? To know that they thought that this was kind of like a character flaw. And all it ever was this little thing in their mind that had them going to do this habitual thing. And when they know that they have the power to change that programming, then they're free to not just change their weight, their health. They're free then to realize that they're far more powerful than they've been led to believe at all. And as you master the subconscious, you may find that your life, takes off in a trajectory that you couldn't even imagine. And that's really the ripple effect, right? The ripple effect of working with that flat tire. So maybe they've got a flat tire and they smoke, or they've got a flat tire and they've never been able to manage their weight. What happens when you actually get your weight or smoking's gone? What else might happen? Who knows? But wouldn't it be worth it to, get a new tire?
For sure.
Rather than limping through life. Oh my God, I have so many stories. Oh goodness. I mean, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me because you think, oh, I'm just going to quit smoking. You have no idea what else could happen. Good stuff.
Yeah. I had one client who did have hypnosis to quit smoking, and one session, like you said, and that's cut this major habit for life.
Done.
What is a typical, I guess, course of hypnotherapy? You said, smoking is maybe 1 or 2 sessions, and some other problems are a few. Is it typically something that you go to like routinely, like a psychologist, or is it,
No. In fact, what I like to say is that I hope that they won't have to see me for very long, like 1 to 3 sessions for a lot of things. Some maybe 6. And then sometimes, I actually have, if there's many flat tires, you may work through things over time. But I would say I'll just leave it at 1 to 3 sessions for most things. Smoking is, I do a one session with a backup, which is never used, but it's there just in case. And then the protocol or the way that I work with somebody is going to depend on what they call me with, what's going on. Because I could tell you, well, I typically for insomnia, it's 3 sessions. They're sleeping before, they come to the second one. But that insomnia could have other things going on. So if I say use the insomnia, you're done in 3 sessions, which is true for most things, but there could be also, who knows, maybe there's alcohol dependence, or there's anger issue, or there's other things. So I don't like to just kind of put it out there as this is the cure, because then it sounds like I'm giving you the pill and here, just take these 3 pills and you're good. But as we know, just taking a pill might address a symptom, but there could be some other things that you could really use to dial in and have an even better outcome than just getting your sleep under control, for example.
Yeah, I'm sure it depends on the particular case. It's just like saying this pill cures all back pain, or do these 3 exercises every day and you'll never have back pain again in your life.
Right. No. Right. Exactly like that.
Now, you'd mentioned NLP before and how that was kind of hypnosis with your eyes open. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that involves?
Well, what I'd rather do is explain that you can think of all of these modalities or these things that people talk about, and they may even be certified in them, as change work, as things that are powerfully able to help you to move from wherever your place of pain to, being free of that. And so whether that change work is done eyes open or eyes closed is really irrelevant, in my opinion. And I would just say, if you're worth your salt, right, then you may even realize that much of what people call one thing or another is, there's really no need for the label. For example, how about this? I'll just throw this in just to make things really interesting or confuse people. Imagine that hypnosis was hypnosis for thousands and thousands of years before it was ever given a name, before the American Medical Association ever said, yes, this is something that we want to embrace and use. What if hypnosis has been done in so many different types of settings, and whatever language that a hypnotherapist, and I am a certified master trainer of hypnotherapists. So when I say this, imagine that all of the language that we use to explain what we're doing really is just, it's created so that we are able to understand the change work. That's it. Just like I say, you have a conscious mind and an unconscious mind, but you have a head and a body and you're in space. You don't actually have, there's no, and I often say, here's the conscious mind. I don't say here, but conscious mind. This is your prefrontal cortex, your human mind, unconscious mind back here, as if they're really like that in the brain. And then there happens to be a wall. We call there's the gatekeeper that's between your conscious and your unconscious. And that's what the hypnotherapist gets through to change everything in the back. Yeah. So we're really just putting these constructs around something, which make it easier for you to understand.
I think we do that in every area of our life. I see it in my own profession with this paradigm and that paradigm, and this is just that kind of relabeled. Or, I mean, even you start looking at parallels between different religions and cultures, and what we call one thing, someone in a different culture may call another thing. But it all kind of works down to humans with a limited, cognitive ability trying to process these bigger concepts that may be too difficult to completely wrap our heads around.
Absolutely. That's it. And so how's that for not giving you an explanation? But understanding that anybody who's employing any of those things essentially has raised their hand to say, I am excited to help you change. And
I think that's the most.
And I've got these tools. I have a toolbox that I use, and I know that I've seen them help other people. They've probably helped me, as they have, right? They've helped me. And I've been using NLP in sales and marketing and everything else for 20 years. So just because I use it as a hypnotherapist now, what does that mean? I just do.
I understand that completely. I almost hesitate to tell people that I'm a physical therapist anymore, because when they hear physical therapist, they put you in a box. Oh, you teach exercises.
Exactly. Totally. Exactly.
And like you said, there's a toolbox, one of which is exercises. And, there are many other things as well that go in that toolbox, but finding the right tool for the right person. And, hey, I want to help you, like you said, is probably the most important message. And right. I have these tools to do it.
Exactly. And does it matter what tools I use? Do they really care if their eyes are open or closed, if they get the change? They don't care what tools you use. They just want the help. And so you're spot on. Absolutely spot on.
I don't care how you fix my tire, just as long as my car drives.
That's right. So. Exactly. Yeah.
So kind of in wrapping up, if someone would want to get in contact with you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I would use mindworksco.com. That is MindWorks is my company for hypnotherapy, and they can actually set an appointment to have a conversation with me right on that site. You can follow me on social media, Melanie McCool. I have, of course, I'm on Facebook and on LinkedIn and across social media. You can find me, and you may find some gifts for you on my website. Some nice hypnotic experiences that you can use even now, today.
Oh, wonderful. Well, we'll put those links in the show notes so that people can access you and find you and get some of those special gifts on your website if they're at all interested. Awesome. Anything else that you feel like we should have touched on that we didn't, or any closing thoughts that you have?
Yes, I would. I would just like to let your listeners know that they are more powerful than they've been led to believe. And when I say led, I don't mean misled or anything. It's just that our culture and even, our culture around wellness and what it takes to be a whole human has been colored in ways that aren't necessarily empowering for the individual. But I'll say that the placebo effect, okay, what that means is that the physician that lives within you and that it heals all your ills. And if you think about how a placebo works, how is it that you could make that change within yourself without anything from external happening to you, really, besides maybe a bit of a mindset tweak? So you're far more powerful than you've been led to believe. And if you master that subconscious mind, you can live an absolutely epic life.
Awesome. I couldn't sum it up any better than that. So thank you again for taking the time to be with us today, Melanie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to the St. Louis Pain Expert Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you live in the St. Louis area and would like Dr. Candy's help to find a solution to your pain, visit our website at stlpainexpert.com. Email Dr. Candy at dave@stlpainexpert.com or call Dr. Candy's clinical practice, Movement for Life, at 314-941-3970. Movement for Life offers free consultations called discovery visits to people who are serious about discovering how they can relieve their pain and get back to the happy, healthy, and active lifestyle they deserve. If you're listening from outside the St. Louis area but would still like some help, feel free to contact us to learn more about our virtual health coaching. Regardless of where you live, please share our podcast with anyone you know who would benefit from learning more about pain and what can be done to relieve it. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or your other favorite podcast platform so you get notified when we release a new episode. Thanks again for listening, and we hope you'll enjoy us again soon.